Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started, please remember to hit the like, share, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This will make sure we can keep bringing you the amazing guests and great content you have come to expect. And don't forget, go to RŌLRadio.com and submit your questions for future guests. This will automatically enroll you into winning a free Fuji gi. Now, let's get to the show. On this episode, we have Dedeco Almeida. Professor Dedeco started under legend Ricardo de la Riva and became not only an incredibly successful competitor, but also a fantastic instructor, academy owner, and hugely successful businessman. Listen as Professor Dedeco discusses his early days training with de la Riva, his philosophy on BJJ and how it relates to life, the impact it has had on his confidence, his family, and his business. Here's the RŌL Radio with a man that epitomizes loyalty, respect, honor, and family, and infuses all of those aspects into his academies and businesses, Dedeco Almeida.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we're live. Gary, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. We've got another great show coming up today, a true American success story, living the American dream. But before we get to that, I think we're changing some things up a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, right?
Yes.
I mean, the partners from Fuji have been doing a phenomenal job with the giveaways. But we actually, got huge feedback from you guys that, first of all, a lot of listeners have been submitting their names multiple times throughout the whole thing. The lists have grown significantly with who's part of this. So we figured we would mix things up a little bit.
Yep.
One of the things that we heard from you guys is that you have specific questions for our guests. So what we are going to do is open that question opportunity to our guests, to all of our listeners. So essentially what you can do is you can go to our website, RŌLRadio.com. You can submit a question, a general question, to non-specific to a guest, because we'll ask that question to whichever episode is next, and that automatically enters you into the drawing of the gi from Fuji, right? At the same time, if we choose your question, and it will be random questions or random selection of the question, right? If we choose you, then obviously we'll announce your name, we'll give you all the props, and then you get your answer for the question that you want to ask the guest. So, and then every month we kind of, wipe the list and we'll start over. So you can submit your name multiple times, multiple questions. The chances of you actually winning go higher, right? And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is a great idea, and Gary gets full credit for this. This is awesome. His rare creativity, right there.
That's my little contribution,
right there. So go to the RŌLRadio.com. As this is airing, this is going to be available. So go to RŌLRadio.com. Submit your question, and you get entered into that Fuji gi giveaway. Great opportunity to do that. And again, we appreciate Fuji for the great work. Before we get to our guests, I got my hands on this, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm holding Rickson Gracie book. So I got my hands on this last week, and I got to tell you, first of all, I'm not getting paid for this, so this is just me loving books and reading. But what a raw story of Master Rickson. He tells some pretty incredible stories that I had no idea about, and the raw and very free flowing storytelling approach in this book. Yeah. It's really, really good. I'm halfway into the book, and I sat down like twice to read it. So it's a very quick read. Nice. If you're a jiu-jitsu fan, jiu-jitsu supporter, part of jiu-jitsu lifestyle, I highly recommend this. Taking a peek at this. I think it's still available on Amazon. So good time, good way to kill the time.
Absolutely, and learn a little bit on the way, right?
I talk way too much.
You do. So,
Professor Dedeco, welcome to the show. See, this is what we got going. I talk too much. Gary doesn't talk at all,
but then it evens out. It all it settles in the middle, and everything works out.
That's okay. As long as you guys work together, and you won't complete each other. I think it's good. It's all good.
Gary completes me.
Oh, geez. This is going in a weird direction. I don't know how I feel about this anymore.
Well, I'm glad that we are able to connect. We tried this once before. It didn't work out. Technical difficulties and all that. And I heard that you have like 2 or 3 stripes on your white belt when it comes to podcasting and Zooming, so that blue belt might be coming soon. Is that the case?
I'm gonna tell you, I don't think even. I think 3 stripes, that's too much. You've been very generous with me. It was a totally human error. On that one was I had no idea what I was doing. I'm terrible with technology. I'm terrible, with computers and everything. I joke a lot about that in my school with my students and with my kids. I have 2 kids. One is 16, the other one is 12. And I tell them this, that when I was up there, ready to come into this earth, God looked at me and said, hey, kid, I'm going to give you one ability, just one. If you don't find that ability, you were screwed. And thank God I found jiu-jitsu. And I think that's the only thing he gave it to me, because everything else, man, I suck at. You have no idea what I'm talking about. It's bad.
That's funny. Now I'm thinking about this. Gary, do you have one ability? Probably.
No, I don't have.
Probably not.
I don't have. I'm not good at anything. I'm not good at anything.
But I'm glad that you were able to jump and join us in this conversation. And we want to focus, majority of this conversation, a big focus point will be confidence. I know that's a big topic for you, especially in the very beginning of your life and the very beginning of jiu-jitsu. I know jiu-jitsu has changed your life significantly.
No, 100%. It's my life. It's my life. It's easy to say that way, Everything I have, the way that I walk, the way that I move, the way that I breathe, the way that I think, the way that I act. I thank everything to jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the reason. I can't put in words how much I love this martial art, how much I appreciate this martial art in total, with everything that I gave it to me, everything.
A lot of people say, and it might be a cliche saying, but jiu-jitsu changes lives, jiu-jitsu lifestyle. This is what we do. We live, breathe, eat, talk jiu-jitsu. Do you think there is some part of all this, or you really truly feel like without jiu-jitsu, you would be completely different?
Oh, 100%. I don't know what I would be doing now. What I said, I had only one ability. That's it. I have no idea. It's like the jiu-jitsu, it's all my friends come from jiu-jitsu. Everything in my life surrounds jiu-jitsu. It's funny. My both kids play football, and they both get compliments because they've been doing jiu-jitsu since they were 3 years old. And people talk all the time how much they understand their body, the lever. Put it this way, I'm a soccer guy. I have no idea what a football is. I just know who's the guy that throws the ball. That's it. So, and here, watching people telling to my kids, like, how much they believe jiu-jitsu helped them, because they always ask, hey, do you guys? Now they don't anymore because the coach know them. But when they started, they used to ask, hey, do you guys play any other sports, anything? And they always said jiu-jitsu. And they're like, okay, I get it. Now I get it why.
What specifically do you think from jiu-jitsu helps, other people? Maybe not even necessarily your kids, but you can use them as an example. Like what skills that jiu-jitsu introduces in our lives that is it bleeds over other areas of life?
You're going to learn things about yourself that you never thought before. You're going to learn so many stuff about yourself. It's funny you say that. Yesterday, I was doing an interview for one student mine that's starting like a technique show, a jiu-jitsu type of thing. And he kind of like, we are talking about that. And I was mentioned that. So I think jiu-jitsu, when you start to grappling, when it doesn't come right away. That's what people need to understand. When you start to jiu-jitsu, it's not like switch and you're like, oh my God, I'm learning from myself. No, that's coming from years of training, years of understanding how jiu-jitsu is. Doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while. Probably many people said this here to you guys. It's a marathon. It's not a race. It's a marathon. It's a really long marathon. And what I think that they teach about yourself, I will use myself as an example. When I started from many situations, I noticed how impatient I was, how I want to think right away. I want to solve problems right away. I want to, I want things to get done right away. In jiu-jitsu, sometimes, when you are grappling, you need to wait the right time to apply that technique, to catch that submission. Same thing when someone is smashing you, you need to remain patient, right? Yeah, I'll tell you about it, right? So
you notice I smile when you say smash.
I'm telling you, oh my God, when you have the guy on top of you, breathe on your neck, you have his breath come on your face, he's smelling so bad, then you have that sweat drop in your face, you need to remain calm, you need to breathe, you need to find the exit. So jiu-jitsu taught me a lot about not being patient, not trying to see the whole picture. Like trying to, instead of pay attention what's happening to me right here, made me start looking around, looking to the whole situation, say, okay, I know it is an exit somewhere. Be patient, think it through, and we will find. And I believe that's what a jiu-jitsu teaches you so much, like to myself, that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. I do believe they teach you, teach. My partner Pete, he says something told me something once like that. When people grapple, watch them grappling. That tells a lot about how they are. If you see that guy, it's very explosive, very tense, that's usually how he is in life. If you see that guy very mellow, very relaxed, more flowing, that's usually how the guy is in his life. And it's funny, he told me that, and I start to pay attention, and a higher percentage, he was right. He was very right about.
I was making note of that because I think that's brilliant, right?
Thank you.
It's watching the behavior in those unexpected and sometimes like very drastic situations, right? I mean, the reality is someone's on top of you. I mean, this is not a good position to be in. Our brain naturally is going to tell us, well, get out of there. And what you were saying is, whoa, wait a minute. Actually, don't. Let's evaluate this situation. Let's see what's happening. If I exhaust all my energy from the bottom right now, it might work, but the odds are actually not on my side, right?
100%.
It's finding these opportunities and being very mechanical and technical. And we talk about this all the time. But I want to go back for a second, because what you're saying right now, what you're telling me is that I cannot step on the mat, learn a few things, and be really awesome. Because
yeah, right.
That's how it worked for me.
Well, and the reason why I'm saying this, when I was starting jiu-jitsu 20 plus years ago, they told me flat out, you will never going to be good at this. You're very likely going to quit. You're not Brazilian. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody, but that's literally what I was told. You're not a Brazilian, so you're not going to get a black belt, and you might as well quit right now. And I often say, even on this show, I was just simply too stupid to quit. I just stuck around, and here I am. But today, I think 20 years later from my starting point, a lot of students, a lot of people in general, especially with these devices in our hands and having everything so accessible, we want everything now. We want everything fast. We want everything that waiting period is more difficult for people. And you are very openly saying, listen, like, if you want it now, that's not going to work.
It's the wrong sport for you. I agree. If you want to now, if you want to like, I'm going to start this in 3 months, I'll be able to, I'm going to be good at it. I'm very honest. Hey, man, that's not the sport for you. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And, it is what it is. But I agree with you, with the devices, with everything. Like, I remember when you, Thomas, the same situation, like 20 years ago, the only way that you learn a new technique, like if you went to a tournament and you saw something doing something new. So when I started, I remember like when Gordo came up with the half guard, nobody knew what half guard was. And Gordo shows up doing this thing that for everybody before was the totally like disadvantage to be there. Gordo created this amazing guard that I believe, like the Riva guard, changed the game. It was another game changing jiu-jitsu. was another point that was a huge game changer in jiu-jitsu. So, but the only way you would have learned these new things if you went to a tournament. If you didn't, or if someone went to compete and came back and said, hey, I saw these guys doing that. And then we start to first try to defend. Like, how we going to defend that? And actually, Libori used to be huge on that. After the tournament, I know you had Libori on the show. So Libori was huge about that. After tournament, Libori used to put all of us together and someone like, hey, this technique, I saw such and such doing, and we need to learn how to defend that. We need to learn how to develop from here. And then he put all the, I was just lucky to be in that room, okay? I wasn't special. I was lucky to be in that room. And he, all these, these masters, these guys start to talking and developing here, developing there, and they came up with a counter and also with a variation in the semi position. So it was pretty cool to watch that, which today is so easy. Just put in Google, YouTube, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You got it right at home.
And you are so right. I don't remember, Gary, do you remember who talked about the tournaments? I was just looking at the guest list, kind of refresh my memory, who was talking about it. I think it was Gordo or Gurgel. I don't remember. But
which aspect, though?
The fact that in order, first of all, you didn't know who your opponents were. That's one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You didn't know. Today, you look at the brackets, 3-4 days ahead. You can kind of anticipate. You can Google the guys. You can see what their styles are. Back then, none of this existed, right? Internet, none, gone. There's no Google. There's no YouTube back then. So the only way really to learn is or to figure out who your opponent is to show up. You show up, it's like that guy. I don't know who that guy. I've never seen that guy. Okay, well, this is going to be interesting, right? That's one. And number two, anytime the new quote-unquote techniques arise, it was like, whoa, what is this dude doing? Right? And and the best part behind this is, the most challenging part behind it, because today you can record everything. You can record and read at home. Back then, you couldn't. It was whatever was in your head. And then you went back to the academy and you were trying to recreate whatever that person was doing. And then you can try creating the counter concept, how to defeat whatever they were trying
100%.
to do. Am I wrong?
100% right. Exactly that.
Do you think that because we have this access to the constant technology today, do you think that makes it easier or more difficult for students?
I think it's going two ways. I would say that makes way easier to learn, to search. It's a great tool. But I think the only thing that it makes harder, because when they see the technique, they don't understand that it took that guy years to get there.
Yeah.
To apply that technique. You see these guys doing a berimbolo, a new knee bar, whatever. They didn't start doing that move overnight. They build a very strong foundation and game to be able to do that technique. That's the only my concern. People ask me all the time, because Dedeco, are you against? I say, no, it's an awesome tool. But make sure when you search things that are in your level. That's what I try to tell them. And not only that, the most important is when you see it's way more involved than you can understand. So just ask your teacher. Come to I don't believe. I don't feel offended when a student mind comes in and say, "Hey, Dedeco, I saw this person doing this technique. What do you think? Can you help me?" I don't mind at all, and I help them usually because sometimes they don't understand. That to get to that position, it's 100 steps before that to getting there, and sometimes the video doesn't explain that because the person that's teaching or doing, he just does automatically that he doesn't have to pay attention to those small details. And I tell, when I teach my classes, I like to mention that. I say, listen, the secret of this martial art, it's not in the big movements. It's on the small movements, the very small movements. That's what I believe the secret is, what makes the difference.
Yeah, it's that hidden stuff, the hidden jiu-jitsu.
The hidden
right?
stuff.
Absolutely.
What Rickson talks about, the invisible jiu-jitsu. Right? What you don't see. You see the big picture, but you don't see the really small tweaks here and there, little details just on the hand position. Instead of here, it's here. Those little things.
And there's another aspect of this whole I saw video on YouTube or Instagram and I want to learn this is I think a lot of students today, they ignore the fact that whoever is recording that video, they've done that move probably hundred, if not thousands of times with the purpose
100%.
of being smooth for that video.
100%.
Honestly, it doesn't always necessarily mean that they know how to teach the technique or they understand mechanics behind it. They just flow. But it is very visually stimulating. You know, it does happen, you know, in my academy when students come to me and say, well, here's a blue belt and he can do blah, 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 you know, and you know, like always it pops in my mind, well, do they even know how to escape the top control?
100%.
Do they even know how to do simple arm lock from a guard? Or do they know how to protect themselves if somebody's coming from a front approach? You know, like distance control, these very, very simple principles of jiu-jitsu, they are not visible in that 30-second clip that you're watching.
Right. And how about that? If you're saying that a blue belt is doing this on this video, how often does that blue belt train? Is he there twice a day, 5 days a week? Or is he the blue belt who's asking you, how come I can't do this or you're not teaching me this? Is he somebody that's there 3 times a week?
100%. Yeah, that's true. And also the guy that's doing the technique too, sometimes that is his move. That's the only thing he does. The only move he had. I usually call those guys, they are the fish. Once you take them out of the water, they have no idea what to do. So they only have that movement. If you block the movement, they don't have an answer for.
Yeah. I mean, that is... And
what you just said, right? They don't know how to escape from side control. They don't know how to approach a front position, what you just said. And I think it's 1,000 of people like that now. Like they only know one way. Like when I learned jiu-jitsu, De La Riva was huge about something. And I thank him so much because of that. De La Riva used to make us, like if we're going to drill something, he used to make us drill 5 times in our good side and 5 times 5. So 25 on our not so good side.
Oh, wow. I like that concept.
Okay.
Yeah, he never said bad side. It's not so good.
Yeah, not so good. I always say,
guess what we do in the class today?
I always say
this just got implemented.
Yeah, I always say it's the weaker side. I don't say bad side. It's
it's just
weaker.
the side that you're not used to.
Strength, right?
Yeah, I have one of my students actually. You know how he calls? He say, Dedeco, they're gonna work on their good side, and they also gonna work in the other good side, right? So he say it's pretty cool how he says.
I like it.
But De La Riva used to be huge about that, like forcing us to go both sides. And one day I asked him, I say, Della, why do you make us drill both sides? And then he said, do you know what side he's going to pass? Right. I'm like, absolutely. No. He's like, so you got to be prepared for both.
Matter of fact, if you look at it, there is a lot of competitors. I personally know a lot of black belts who train on the left side intentionally to create the surprise or element of surprise or attack the weaker side of the opponent. I mean, that's very common.
100%.
Yeah, my entire half guard is on the opposite. Oh, I shouldn't say it because now everybody knows.
No, but but that's true. Like back in the day, like you get some black belts. I mean, not even black belts, some purple belts, blue belts even. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. They are so technical, they're so intelligent, and they are so ahead on the sport in their game that they can easily pick the side that you like and the side that you don't like. And if they are good enough, what do? They keep pushing to the side that you don't like.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think it was very good, very important. On my journey in jiu-jitsu, when De La Riva back in the day, which I didn't understand anything, he kind of like always was very, very strong about, hey, both sides.
Yeah, and those are important points, often underestimated. Even when it comes to, I'm going to loop this back to the topic that I want to pick apart, is confidence on and off the mat, but it's really knowing that you can execute things efficiently on both sides, it has to bring more confidence to you from a jiu-jitsu perspective. Like, you 100%. Know that you know your stuff no matter what is happening.
100%. And I try to teach this to, all my students, my kids, my son, he plays basketball too, my youngest one, and he got a cut in his arm. He had to get a bunch of stitches. So he wasn't kind of in a basketball season. He couldn't work his shots. He was in the every day in the hoop, just with the other arm, just with his left arm. Every day in the hoop, just shooting, because he couldn't do anything with his right arm. So he was there every day, boom, boom, just getting used to. And I found it pretty cool because I didn't have to tell him to do it. It's just he always hear me saying, hey, you got to be good at both sides. You got to work both sides. You got to know how to do in both sides. He went there by himself and did it.
What do you think it's about jiu-jitsu that gives students confidence? Like, it's such an interesting topic for me, particularly because I just feel confidence is not a skill. This is not something that you can learn. It's like a switch.
Well, we've talked about this before. Is it nature or nurture, that type of stuff?
Right.
Is it something you're born with? Is it something that you develop?
It's funny. I had people ask me these questions like a million times about, I don't know, it's something that you just feel. I saw one time in Hicks, I think it was Renzo Gray, no, it was Carson Grace. I don't remember who was. What it was, somewhere, someone posted something saying, I think it was Renzo, saying something like, when you leave your house, you might forget your wallet, you might forget your keys, you might forget your bag, but you're never going to forget your jiu-jitsu, because your jiu-jitsu walks with you wherever you go.
I like that.
I'm not taking credit for that one. Was one of the graces. I'm not sure who was. I don't remember, but I saw somewhere, and it is true. It is totally true. And I think it's just like, it's so hard to answer that question for myself, because it's just something that you feel, you change, you start changing. Your attitude starts changing. The way that you walk, you start changing. And I think that confidence comes together. I think also, if I were to say something about why jiu-jitsu give you that confidence, I think it's because when we are grappling, you have the chance of control someone completely. When you are on the ground, when you are on top, grappling someone, or you are in your guard and you're ready to sweep him, you have the control of that position. And that's very powerful, in my opinion. You have someone and I say, okay, now I'm going to throw you. I'm going to sweep you. And I know it's nothing that you can do about it.
Yeah, and funny you say this, because literally yesterday I was reading Hickson's book, and one of the things that I've read literally yesterday was, he said, jiu-jitsu is one of those unique sports or activities where only one out of the two people competing is in control. The other one is being controlled. It's never 100%. Equal. Ever equal.
Never. 100%. So it's kind of exactly, it's kind of what I said. And I think that's what it gives that confidence, but again, the confidence doesn't come overnight, comes very slowly with time. I have I don't know if I'm talking too much, but
that's why we're here. No, believe me, I have to listen to Gary talk all day long. I'd rather listen to you than him. So please carry on.
I don't know if I told you guys about it, but I have a huge law enforcement program in my school. So I have probably over 200 police officers training with me from so many different areas, agency. I have once a week, the past 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, we have a once a week, a totally free jiu-jitsu class for law enforcement. And it is not self-defense, it's jiu-jitsu class with a gi for law enforcement, right? So, and 3 months ago, we start a program with the Weymouth Police Department, which they have 40 police officers training with us for 6 months, and they are funding the program. So they are paying the program for them to train. So why I'm explaining this, saying that one of the police officers last week came into the school, and he's been doing it's about 3 months now that we are into the program. And he said he ended up in a situation on the street. And he said since he was for the first time in his career that he felt comfortable and confident to hold someone on the ground without hurting the person, without using any tool.
I mean, isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. I was in tears, like my eyes. I cry a lot, so I'm very emotional. But I was in tears, like when he told me that, because his eyes was lighting up. He's like, Dedeco, I was able to control him. I didn't have to hurt him. He waited for the backup to come and help him, and actually he said the guy told him after, hey man, thanks for don't hurt me.
Yeah, it reminds me of something that we had Chris Howder on the show, and he was talking about why he loves jiu-jitsu, and he was saying that it's because it's one of the martial arts where I can control you completely and show you mercy at the same time, and I can talk to you, and I can say, look at where you're at. We need to calm down. What can we got to stop, and he can talk to these people and control them. And there's a better outcome rather than really physically hurting somebody.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
That's great.
And often it comes from the fact that we know, or the person who does have all these skills, they know how much power they have in their hands. Like that's one of the conversations that I've had with many police officers and military individuals. They say, I know what I can do, and I choose not to because I know what the consequences will be. This is what makes it safer. It is not the fact that I can take this guy out and destroy him. It's the fact that I actually know what I can do. I have the confidence. I know I have the skill of staying calm and executing the right motions at the right time and making the right choices, right? Because once the adrenaline kicks in, that's where these decisions are a little blurry.
100%.
Right? You make the wrong decision, you can't take it back.
Yeah, we've had plenty of example of that in the recent past, unfortunately. But it is what it is, right? How was this process? You talk about this process of confidence being very, very long time. How was this particularly for you? Like, at which point of your jiu-jitsu you had this, pivot point where you felt more confident that you felt prior to that?
For myself was like, it's hard for me to name time on it. How I can say for myself was the attitudes that I started having, the actions. Like, I started jiu-jitsu because I had a problem of panic attacks, anxiety, and many other problems. Like, I've been in a psychiatrist, psychologist. I mean, I think I said this story a couple times. And, my parents ended up finding someone that instead of giving me a pill, he's recommending me jiu-jitsu. And he was a jiu-jitsu guy, actually. And my parents actually said, hey, we tried many martial arts and nothing worked. And he's like, no, trust me, try this one, you will change. What I can tell you is this: the first sign that I had it, I used to pee my bed. I think I said that many times too. And they all came from that panic attack, insecurity that I have all day. And I was about maybe 13, like 14 years old. And I remember the first thing that I stopped was peeing my bed. That was the first thing that I stopped. And then after a while, I started like not being afraid to walk, go to, the grocery store by myself. And remember, I grew up in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, but I grew up in a good town. So I grew up in a good place. I was very lucky, very fortunate that my parents had a good situation. And That so jiu-jitsu, it was very, now it's easy to say, but I remember back then, I didn't feel like it's not was by small actions that I wasn't doing anymore than I started doing. I was getting bullied in the school, and I remember the first time that the guy, the one of the kids that I used to bully me tried to do something, and I faced him. I remember that first time, and the confidence that I had when I look at him, I know he kind of like, that was I stepped back for him. The way that he reacts, I saw in his face like, holy shit, he wasn't expect. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Oh, you're
Don't worry
fine.
about it.
You're
Oh,
fine.
really?
You can let the
I said,
expletives
We've heard much worse.
okay. I said like, holy shit. Not like he's afraid of me, but like, he didn't do it, and that's start with everything else. But if I have to put a time, I will say it was about like the whole process. I'll say 1 year, maybe 1 year and the biggest challenge of my life actually was my first tournament, because I was terrified, but I had to do that because got in a point. It's funny how jiu-jitsu started. I never thought about competing. I didn't want to compete. And De La Riva very gently started like throwing that idea on my head. Hey, you should try. Hey, you should try. Hey, maybe, and I remember at some point you're like, I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to see how it goes. And I'm going to tell you, I want to run out of there. I tried to run away, and my teammates in De La Riva like, you're not fucking going anywhere. You are staying here. Like, people
You
were
signed
getting
up for this. You're doing this.
I am telling you, people were getting hurt. Like my teammates, one of my teammates got hurt, and I'm like, I can bring him to the hospital. Don't worry about it.
There's your out.
You staying. And I'm like, holy cow.
Anybody needs water? Anybody needs towels? I'm going to go get it.
Exactly that point. Yeah. And, but that was, I'll say it was a process. It was definitely, I noticed, my parents noticed before me. My parents, like I remember my mother like saying things like, oh my God, you were so different. You were different. Like, hey, I'm proud of you. You did that. Before you were afraid to do it. And that was a good feeling, but I would say 1 year probably, the whole
But that's
process.
still a long time. I mean, 1 year. That's
very long time.
Weeks.
Very long time. Yeah, was a long time. Yeah, to kick in. But it's funny. And I do believe it's important. I said this yesterday too. I think you find the passion for jiu-jitsu, and that passion comes together with the teacher, the first teacher that you meet in your life. He's so important, because I do believe that might be the person that's going to make you stay or is going to make you quit. So I was very fortunate too to have De La Riva too, because the way that he treated me, I felt him treat me like a king. When I started training with him, and I was heavy, I was really fat, and that hasn't changed too, just like but I like to think that did. But so I was a big kid, and instead of like treating me like kind of like making fun of things like that, he went on the other way. He's like, man, you're a big kid. You're going to do well in this sport. You're going to be able to do, drop your weight, do this stuff. But it's funny. A year later, when I think he saw that he won my trust, he got my trust, I trusted on him, he started very slowly telling me things like, hey, Dedeco, you are doing great, but I think if you lose a little weight, you might be a little faster. If you were to work in your flexibility a little more, you might get more flexible, might get a little easier for you to do some positions. So he was telling me to lose weight without me feeling that I had to lose weight. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I started losing weight. I started to take a better care of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about this again. Like, it feels like we are talking about everything on this show, but we talked about, the separation between good and great instructors or phenomenal
100%.
the ones that the pure leaders who really make a huge difference. And often it boils down to the simple fact of, ability to tell your students that they are wrong without telling them they are wrong. How do you tell someone that this is not how you do it? But there are ways of being very creative, and there's a big difference between negative and positive spotlighting and really maneuvering with words, how you inspire people versus telling them you suck and crushing them.
Yeah,
right?
100%. He was agree. He was like that. He's great. He was the one that he inspired you. But but don't get me wrong. If he had to get you straight to, he was a tough one.
Has he ever got you straight?
1,000 times. I don't even know how many times. Oh my God, no. Many.
What was the one that you remember the most?
The worst.
The one who just went bad.
Bad. I'll tell you the bad one. So. I was a blue belt, right? And I was come up I was winning, all the tournaments that I was competing. I was doing very well as a blue belt, right? So I was grappling the gym, and I started to get up there, and people look at me in the school, talk, to start to be kind of little reference there, people look up to you. Excuse me. So De La Riva, one day I'm grappling. And De La Riva, he's sitting across the room, right? He gets up, he gets closer to me. He's like, hey, Dedeco, close your elbows when you are passing. And I'm like, closing my elbows. He's like, yeah, you are opening your elbows too much. You are exposing. They're going to catch you in omoplata. And then, blue belt, really good. You know how it is, so good. Goes to him and says, I said, but Della, that's how we call him, Della, nobody's catching me in omoplata. And then he tapped on my shoulder, okay, and went away. Went to his corner. Whatever, kept training. Of course, he never calls you right away. He waits. I don't even know. I honestly, I don't even know how long, but I'll say 3 months. I don't know. He waits for a long time. He made sure I forgot. So one day he's in the gym. He's like, hey, Dedeco, come here. Let's grab. He caught me 28 times in omoplata. Then
you made a point.
The last one, he taps my shoulder. Close your elbows. And walk away. So that was one of the messages that De La Riva had to me. Besides other ones, you did something stupid, you treat someone how you're not supposed to, excuse me, or you try to act a little tough, which for him it would have been, I think that's try to act tough. I think a little cocky, De La Riva would have ripped you down. He hated that. He still does. He always said this is hey, you don't have to look tough. You have to be tough when you need to be. You don't have to walk tough. You can be the nicest guy in the room and be the toughest one. That's the one you want to be. He always said this to us.
I mean, that's a big, impactful message, and what's interesting that some of these little moments, just like the one that you mentioned about tapping on the shoulder, is that. Those are the ones that we remember for the rest of our lives.
Forever.
I'll tell you quickly. That just reminded me of a story of mine with Carlson Gracie Sr. So this is going way back. I'm a white belt. I think a couple stripes on my white belt. I don't remember. And he tells me all the time, I love passing guard. He tells me, keep your head up. Keep your head up. You're going to get caught in triangles. No triangles. No triangles. Head up. No triangles. Head up. I was like, okay, yeah. And at that point, legit, I think that I know everything. I don't know what you're talking about. My head is up. My head is up. And I did a tournament. I did a tournament as a white belt. And I think first minute in a tournament, boom, triangle. and it was tight. It was tight. Like I'm seeing spots in the whole thing, and kind of pre-phrasing this. Carson sits like 4 or 5 mats away from me, so he sits far away. Okay, and I'm wobbling, trying to get out of the triangle, and then in one moment, all I hear is like, triangle, and that's all I heard. And I was like, no way, he's not gonna prove me wrong right now. So I did get out of the triangle, but that was like the moment. And I remember to this day, it was like you heard Carson's voice across the entire room, across the entire 10 minutes.
Was that
triangle?
Was that the time he got up and left?
Yeah.
And then he got up and left.
He
left
got
Thomas
up and walked away, and then I got out of the triangle. I passed to the side, and so it happened. I actually won the match, and I look around. Where's Carson? Carson, he's gone. He already left. He already left. For him, it was more important that I got caught than what was the end result. They're like, oh man, I did not hear end of that one for months. So anytime I came to the class, it was like, triangle.
It's funny. It's the way that I think the old school, I think it's that way that they use it to be. They have that tough message. It was a lot about tough love.
Yeah.
That's how Jiu-Jitsu was when we can I say something? Can you guys hear me well? My audio keep kicking in and out.
Yeah, I think everything's been fine.
We hear you very well.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. So, and I believe at that time, that's how Jiu-Jitsu used to have this really tough love. I think that's the way that they were teaching us, was a lot about the tough love. And I got plenty of those. Plenty.
Do you think it's harder for a student to survive the first year when the confidence is getting built and we learn some of these things, or is actually walking in to the academy for very first time?
Oh, I think the walk-in, no doubt about, is the hardest one. It is, my opinion, is the hardest one.
Why do you think it's so hard to walk into a Jiu-Jitsu academy?
I say this to my instructors here. Like when we have our meetings, I tell them, listen, the people that walk through that door, they're going to have 2 types of attitudes. Either they're going to be so scared, so humble, so quiet, or they're going to try to act tough. They are both have the same feelings. They have no idea what they're going to get into, and they are scared. And how I think everybody was. I mean, I was shitting on my pants when I walked the first time, And I do believe that the first step to walk through the door is the hardest one. And if you ask me the second one, it's the 3 first months. I think the 3 first months of Jiu-Jitsu, because whatever you learn is not going to make any sense to you. You're going to feel that you are the most uncoordinated person on the planet, and they're going to talk about things that you have no idea what are they doing. You're going to feel when you tighten your belt, everything is wrong. Everything doesn't look weird. It's just like, everything is weird, and if you go by that 3 months, you start to feel a little more, you start to put like 2 pieces of the puzzle together. They come a little more together. And then I think after that, when things start moving a little better and better and better, I do believe that's the tough one.
Yeah, and you know what else? I think what I've noticed, at least what happens during the first few months, is that they see that there are other people coming behind them. Yes. And they are no longer the quote-unquote new person.
New guy. 100%.
Right? They're not the new guy.
100%.
And that's a big shift too, right? Like
100%.
This is that spotlighting that I talked about. Like nobody, even though it's not intentional spotlighting, but they personally know, like, I'm the newest guy. Yep, that's me right here.
They do. And remember what I said, I learned something from De La Riva, and that I do in my school. De La Riva, when he had a new person coming to the school, try a class or start jiu-jitsu, he always asked us, the senior students or the students that people use to look up more. he always asked us to sit with that person, to talk to that person. So that way, that person felt more comfortable, like, oh my God, this guy that everybody talks about, it's talking to me. It's pulling me in, it's helping me. So I do the same thing in my school until today. And I think that really helps to people feel more comfortable, because once they start feeling part of the group, I think the chances are way less that they're gonna quit. I think so.
What do you think is the biggest reason people quit?
In jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Of course, we talk about jiu-jitsu. What I'm talking about. I'm sorry.
I mean, we can talk
pick
about
up a different topic.
horseback riding or checkers. I don't know. Hey, do you want to talk about football? Not soccer. You want to talk about football?
Oh, jeez, no. You gotta, if you, man, I wish
Thomas.
when I watch games with my kids, oh my God, they're like, Daddy, what are you talking about? Shut up. And sometimes I'm like, why did you went through? How did you do that? Dad, shut up. Shut up.
Excuse me, we should get one of your kids on the show and have them talk about how the football game goes.
They have all these funny stories. But
hey, so deviating from that, when you watch their football games, are you one of those passionate dads who screams all across the field, or are you just
no? My wife is. I stay. My wife was an athlete too, so I'm like I stay like my wife. She's in one side of the stands. I'm on the other side because I'm the quiet one. But I'm the one that I like. It's funny because when the games are over, my kids always come over to me and like, hey, Dad, what do you think? What do you think should I do? And actually, it's funny. On my very limitation that I have, that I don't understand anything about football, but I understand about training people, like body balance, things like that. So sometimes I tell them, hey, do you know this? I think you should change a little bit your base this way. This guy was able to push you because your legs were together. So little things like that, they always ask for my advice.
Good for you. I mean, that's huge. And I think that's support.
Cool.
And even though, that football is might not be your strongest suit or might be not part of their interest, I think it's extremely important that dads are involved in whichever capacity they can, with their kids. It's like, I think, and I see this with my boys too. I have 3 boys, and all of them, especially the young ones, they gravitate towards the mom. Matter of fact, today, this morning, I walked downstairs, in the morning for the breakfast and all that, and there's a hi boys, blah blah, and they're like, eh, and they run away from me. I was like, I'm not even gonna get a hug. I mean, but anyway, it's so important that we are involved. I'm now
100%.
Deviating in the topic, but it's like I just had to say that because there are many fathers out there who are not, due to many reasons, doesn't matter what it is, but that involvement has a huge impact.
Just being there. Just being there. You don't have to coach. You don't have to be a superstar father. All you got to do is show up. Just be there.
Just show up and make sure he sees you. He saw you there. He's happy.
Yep. Absolutely, 100%.
Do you coach them in jiu-jitsu?
No, I don't teach my kids.
It's funny because shout out to Professor Edgar, one of our black belts here. He has kids in the kids program here, and he goes like, I can't watch them. I just can't. I can't watch them. It's like, look what he's doing. What is he doing? I can't watch this anymore.
And he actually filled in. He filled in his kids class yesterday, and I could see him looking at his son and just it was just like he wanted so bad to be over there and telling him what to do. But he stayed. He kept his distance and let his son work it out for himself. It was great.
I don't. I don't coach my kids. I don't teach my kids. They are in their class there. I let all the instructors take care of them. And my kids, it's funny. They know that. It's funny you said that. Very rare. And I maybe can count in one hand the times that they ask me an advice in jiu-jitsu.
Why do you think that is?
Because he's your dad.
I think it's a little bit of my fault because I really keep that space between me and them. Why? I don't want them have any responsibility of being my kids. I don't want to get the feeling like, oh, I'm the Dedeco son, I got to beat everybody in this school. And I don't want any student in my school look at them special because they are my student. If they have to get their ass kicked, they're going to get their ass kicked. And they know that. They know. As a matter of fact, I kick them out of the mats. because they try to, like I said something one time to my youngest one. My youngest one is a little more pushy. He tried to say something in front of everybody, just looking like, hey, out. And then he went to my wife like, Mommy, Daddy kicked me out.
Well, part of being a parent, sometimes is teaching them like the tough love. I mean, that's a big part of it, right? It should not be all, unicorns and rainbows. I'm a big proponent, and I'm not trying to make their life hard, but they do need to experiment and learn the failure and obstacles are part of our day-to-day operation. You need to know how to troubleshoot. You need to know how to troubleshoot, especially in jiu-jitsu.
100%. And they need to have, I think they have other coaches, learning from other coaches, so they can have the experience of other people coaching them, and I do believe it's hard for myself. Okay, maybe for other people it's not. For myself, it's very hard to separate the fatherhood from the instructor. Yeah. It is. Yeah. And I don't like to mix it both because I don't want to get home, and have my kid mad at me because I did something in class that he didn't like. Yeah. Makes sense. So I don't coach them. I leave them on and I trust my instructors 100% with them. So I'm not even.
I know what it is. I know what it is. You don't want them to get really good and then tap you out. That's what it is. That's what it's coming. You know it's coming.
I mean, my oldest son, like I'm 6'1". My oldest son, he's 16. He's 6'2", 225 pounds.
Oh, Lord.
He's at the end.
Well, so I'm not rolling with him, that's for sure.
So he's a big kid, man. And sometimes I grab, but he's still a kid. He's still a 16-year-old. But when you feel that, oh shit, it's coming.
Yep.
16-year-old. I cannot imagine when he's 25.
Yeah, he's a big kid. He's a big kid. And he likes jiu-jitsu a lot. He loves jiu-jitsu. But when he's in like football season, he doesn't train jiu-jitsu just so he doesn't get hurt. Like, he's really focused in football.
So jiu-jitsu is not easy.
No.
Jiu-jitsu takes a very, very long time.
It does.
I mean, these are not epiphanies. This is nothing genius that we talk about here, but often underestimated by many students who just started or are about to start or just, beginning that journey of a million miles, on the mat within jiu-jitsu. And I think a big part of all this is that it takes a lot of time and patience to grow that confidence and continue building these skills. What is the one thing that you learned over the time of being on the mat, and maybe some of the things that you pass on to your students and maybe to your kids? The one thing to look out for in jiu-jitsu to make you successful. What is the one little thing that makes it all better, all good, sets you for success?
I'll tell you, be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Just be patient. Be patient. I tell this everybody. And don't compare yourself with anybody else besides you.
But that's so hard. It
is impossible.
It's
I know.
impossible. But how do I not compare myself to somebody who's right next to me? We started the same day.
I know, but you have to, because what explains this, you have to look lifestyle. How is his lifestyle? How many times he comes a week? What he does for work? Does he sit in an office every day? He owns his business. He just getting a couple meetings, go out. Or does he works with he's a construction guy. He's like working every day. He's under the sun. And you gotta compare who is the guy, how many times he comes a week, how he eats, how he sleeps, how does he has kids, what I just said, how old is he? And that's why I like to tell them to always compare with you, thinking about this. So the guy that started, like I do this to myself all the time. The Dedeco 20 years ago, I'm 47. So the Dedeco 27 years, 20 years ago, the 27-year-old Dedeco, how I was. If I grapple that's Dedeco today, is that Dedeco would win or the one today would win? Who is more knowledgeable? Who is more technical? Makes sense?
So who would win? Who would win?
In tournaments, the other one, I believe. The other one, just because it's not many injuries. You know, the injuries were very young back then. And I was training again. The Dedeco 27-year-old was single, training all day, every day. Had like a personal training, had a nutritionist, had everything. The Dedeco today owns 2 schools, has 2 kids, owns a manufacturing company. It's married and has 2 dogs, you know, and it's a totally different one. And so I don't try to compare. What I try to look is this, you know, the Dedeco today done things on the right way. That's why, you know, I am here. And I still can train jiu-jitsu because I was smart enough to take a good care of my body and have good training partners, you know, and I still have a bunch of injuries. But I try to, when I go to that comparison, I always look like, okay, what I achieved when I was back there, what I achieved today, right? And I look at this, you know, what I had to achieve back that I did, and what I have to achieve today, I'm still going, I'm still doing, I'm still trying to do it.
Yeah, and you nailed it right there. And actually, Dean Lister, when we had him on the show, you know, talked about something very similar. The training 20 years ago, training 5 years ago was very different than it's today for 2 reasons. One, the science behind training is changing. But 2, we get older. Whether we like it or not, there's a wear and tear. I mean, I don't know 100%. One jiu-jitsu grappler who doesn't have some wear and tear on their body. I mean, my fingers are, well, I can't even close my fist anymore.
Watch me get out of this chair after this.
That's why the chair, the arms rest just lift up and we roll off. But those are very important components to really understand long-term in jiu-jitsu, that there is a wear and tear, and 2, jiu-jitsu changes. So it's always a moving target, and comparing yourself to somebody else is one, completely setting you for failure, in my opinion. Like, you're not even remotely doing yourself a favor. It is complete failure if you compare yourself to somebody else, you know, because our circumstances change. But also there's one thing that you didn't mention, and I think is very important, is our brains are different.
100%.
We think differently. Between 3 of us, I bet you any money that if we say, hey, let's do an armbar, classic old school armbar, you're going to get 3 versions. I say this to my students all the time. You get 100 black belts in a room, and you ask them to teach the same technique. You're going to get 100 different versions.
100%.
Different versions.
You know what I say? Jiu-jitsu is like your fingerprints.
Yeah.
The technique is the same, but you're going to add your own taste, your own recipe too. So that's why it's never the same. So it's like this. Jiu-jitsu is something that belongs to you. You have that. It's your fingerprints. That's what jiu-jitsu is. The technique is the same. You're going to teach the same armbar for 100 people. Every single one is going to do different, and it's going to do right because it works for them. It's funny. When I started jiu-jitsu, it was about a lot like you show a technique. Sometimes they're like, oh, that's wrong. Don't do that way. And nowadays, it's a lot about that. Is that works for you? Yeah, keep doing.
Yeah, I see it a lot when people take a class from 2 different people in the same week, and those 2 people are teaching the same thing, and they'll lean in and they'll be like, you know, he didn't show it quite that way the other day. You know, so and so did something a little different, and it's like, yeah, that's just their spin on it. Neither one's wrong. They're both right. They're both going to get you the submission. Pick which one, you know, experiment with both, and pick which one you think is best for you.
That's why we 100%. often say, at least I often say, if you are going to imitate any of the, you know, social media, YouTube or DVD instructionals, make sure you're looking at an instructor who is very similar to you as far as style and a body built and so on, because they are showing what is natural to them. even though they very likely they're trying to be transparent and teach to the larger audience as general as possible, it's still their spin. It's still their flavor, you know? So make sure that's what you want to learn. Otherwise, you know, you might be wasting your time because it might not work, quote unquote. And then, you know, I often say, if it doesn't work, we just quit, right? We quit jiu-jitsu. That's it. Garbage.
Right?
Quit. Done. Right? Or we can troubleshoot. Yeah.
I'd have quit a lot of times by now.
Me too.
Awesome conversation. Listen, before we break this away and kind of wrap it up for today, end of each episode, we do this fun ending with 5 questions. We didn't tell you this. This is a surprise. We don't tell this to anybody. Okay. You know, but it's just always, you know, kind of a nice wrap up to the conversation. You know, some questions are more serious than others. Some of them are funny. But you just tell us first thing that comes to your mind, and we kind of spin it off of that before we wrap this up. Gary's going to take a lead on this.
So we talked a little bit about your beginnings, but what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat? What were you feeling? What were you going through? Terrified?
Terrified.
What was your first day? Do you remember your first day? Like legit first day?
I don't remember the date. I remember the first time. It was terrified. It smelled terrible because it was those old canvas mats. The gis was an old, like chigri. I think was a judo gi, chigri gi, something like tiger gi. It was awful.
Man, our students are spoiled. I'm just going to say that.
You what? Oh, God, you kidding me? Yeah. They have no idea. No.
Gary, do you remember when Miguel Torres was on the show and he talked about he went to Brazil with Carson Sr. and he was walking up to the first floor and he could smell the gym outside of the door downstairs.
Oh,
yeah. It was like he said it hit him in the face. It wasn't a smell, it was a feeling too.
No,
it was like it smacked you in the face. Yeah. Ugh, man, I'm glad I started later in life.
You guys are listening. You are spoiled. All of you guys spoiled.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, or people sharing gis. Like you walk in and you pull it off the hook. I mean,
sometimes the gi was all ripped right in the ass. So the whole pants the full moon when they were grappling. Oh, you have no idea.
I'm back in the pre-spats days.
Oh, some pants, like they had only the half. So half in the leg and the other leg. Oh my God.
This is what we should have been talking about the entire time.
I am telling you. Bad.
So go back to your first day for a moment. So you walk into the academy. Who's the first person?
Riva.
He's the first person.
First person, come talk to me.
That's wonderful.
And what does he say?
He's like, "Hi, what's your name?" And like, "Hey, my name is RŌL Almeida, but Dedeco is my nickname, and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Oh, let's see if you like it, blah, blah." And that's what it was. But when I saw that Riva first time, I thought she was like a math teacher. I didn't think about
He kind of does look like her, yeah.
I see like all these guys, big guys, the ears all puffed in the corner, like they just look like they were ready to kill someone. Then comes like the science teacher gets up.
The little guy, the skinny guy.
The little guy, the skinnier guy walking towards me. I'm like, holy shit.
Did it cross your mind at any point of time in the very beginning that you can actually beat him?
Never in my life. I still can't. No, he's awesome. Some people are different. Him, Liborio, those guys, they, many of them. I mean, I had a pleasure to grapple with so many of these unbelievable guys from Carson, which is my lineage. It's coming from Carson Gracie. And I'm telling you, some of these guys, they coming from a different type of breed, man. They are different. They are just different.
Yep. That's great. All right. Moving on to number 2. What has been your most rewarding achievement?
Oh, boy. With your resume, I don't know.
Yeah.
In life or in jiu-jitsu?
Both.
Either you pick. It's up to you.
So,
what are you most proud of?
Man, it's hard for me because I have a hard time talk about like my achievements. So I don't have something that I will say, you know what? I get one. Actually, I get one. In in 1993, I fought a tournament in Brazil. Man, I might start like cheer up a little bit. So I fought a tournament in Brazil in 1993, a blue belt tournament. And when I used to compete, I always like to sit by myself, right? And De La Riva, my teammates, always respected that. They used to come over, talk to me, and leave. So I was sitting near to the bathroom. And this lady, she was the lady that I cleaned the bathrooms in the club that we are competing, the gymnasium. And, you know, out of nowhere, we just start talking. And just talking. Like, you know, and I usually don't talk to anyone. And understand this, you've been like the, how you say, janitor, the person that comes to the janitor in Brazil, man. They maybe make, I would say, $100 a month, maybe. So it's a tough job. You know, you all know, you had some Brazil, you guys all know Brazilians, so you know how it is, how tough it is there. So she's just talking to me, and we start talking. So I had 3 mats the first day. No, 4 mats the first day. Sorry, 4 mats the first day. And I won. And then the finals used to be the next day. So that's how it used to be. It's from that time when tournaments was 1 ref and 3 guys on a table. They had to lift the flag and see, you know, if you didn't win by submissions. And so come back the next day. I go to the semi spot. The women was there again, right? And then, that time she wasn't talking to me that much. She was like coming outside, watching, but not talking too much. And I fought the semifinal. I won. Then I went to the final. And she started talking to, and then I asked her, I say, "You okay?" And she started breaking down in tears. So was her son's birthday, and her son, I don't remember the age. But it was like her son, maybe, I don't know, maybe was, I don't know, man, 13, 12, I don't know the age. Then she turns to me. She was very upset because she couldn't give her son anything for his birthday. She couldn't buy. She was really upset. And it's funny. Back in that day, when you used to win tournaments, they didn't have IBJJF, right? I'm talking about it was before IBJJF, before everything. So the tournaments used to be sponsored by companies. So you would have whatever company, you know, BJJ tournament, you know, the name of the company and a tournament. That's so the company used to be this for like Copa Company, Copa Atlântico Sul. This one was Copa Cidade do Rio de Janeiro, which is a town of state of Rio, but it was sponsored by some company, something like that. So what happened? If you won, you used to get a bunch of stuff. So the company used to give you whatever they were. So if they were a surf style company, you would get a shirt, you would get a bunch of shit, right? So I turned to her, I said, "Hey, I'm going to the final. I'm not sure if I'm going to win, because I was going to face actually a great friend of mine, Miguel Keller from Carson Gracie. Miguel Keller was one of Carson's black belts. Unbelievable. We had battles, me and him. Great friend of mine. Unbelievable jiu-jitsu guy. One of the best guys that I ever competed against. So I was going to face him, and our match always was tough, you know. And I said it to her. I said, "Listen, I don't know if I'm going to win." I said, "But if I do, whatever is in the bag, you know, I'll give it to you. So you can give it to your son." She's like, "Really, you do that for me?" I say, "Yeah, of course I will." So, man, but I told her, I said, "Listen, but whatever comes in the bag, it might be extra large, double X, because look at my size. You know, I don't know how big is your son." She's like, "Oh, he's a medium. Like, he's small, he's a medium kid." He's like, "No, but doesn't matter. Just I have something for him." Man, I won the tournament. So as soon as I win the tournament, you know, she was on the corner, like jumping, so happy. So I get my freaking bag. I bring it to her. Do you believe all the clothes were medium?
It's meant to be.
It was meant to
Do
be.
you believe that, man?
That's beautiful.
That was meant to be.
If I have to say something, that's the moment that I always remember that moment. Here and there, that situation always come in my mind, you know, was something so special, was special, was very special.
That's awesome. I was waiting for you to say, like, there were keys to the new car in there.
I don't think I didn't think it was going that way.
But no, but that's an awesome story.
That's a cool story.
That's like a pivotal moment of things happen for a reason.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was pretty cool. All my students here know this story. I never said this story anywhere. Nobody never asked me what was my most achieved moment in jiu-jitsu in my life. I do believe it was that one.
That's
Good for you.
That is beautiful.
That's an amazing
not,
story.
You know, it's not a medal. It's not a world championship. It's
No,
not
it has
beating
nothing to
X,
do.
Y,
And
or
by
Z.
the way, the medal was the ones that you can buy online. The medal sucks. I'm telling you, was the do you know all the medal that you just like you give it to kids in school?
Like a
it was that type
participation
of
trophy,
medal.
just what they
Times
had,
that type of medal, and it was gold. Yeah, it was this big. It was really small.
Well, that day, it was not about medals. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
And
Not
as
at all.
a 20-year-old young man to step up like that, that's wonderful. Thank you. And thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Have you ever wanted to quit?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. He's thinking.
One time I thought about.
Yeah.
Yes, one time when I left the Riva school,
Why?
I thought about, but thank God I didn't, you know, and everything went back to normal. But we had something, and not even me and him, was more outside people that kind of got between us, and I was the only time.
Those
that I
situations
really-
are hard. Like, I even know from my own experience and what I've heard stories of close friends, because we
Yes.
create such a close relationships with people.
I couldn't see myself like competing or training under anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, but I was very fortunate too that's when Liborio, Murilo Bustamante like pulled me in, you know. And I believe actually when that happened, De La Riva had something to do with that too. I think he's kind of said, hey, take him, you know, pull him in. You know, and years later, everything back to normal. So it was awesome.
Things happen for a reason.
Great.
It was. And it was, you know, tell you was so good for, you know, helping me to understand more life, you know, understand more, like, things sometimes don't go in your way, you know, and you have to understand how to be patient, you know, wait the right moment to let the time go a little bit to solve a problem that maybe you left back there, you know. And I was very fortunate that him, De La Riva and I, you know, we together again and everything back to normal. But I'll say one time. That's the only time.
All right. Okay. Describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
First thing comes to your mind.
I didn't believe at all. I wasn't expecting at all.
So it was a surprise.
Totally surprised. I wasn't expecting at all. Was a surprise. Was very scary moment. And
Why scary?
Because I was going to be beside guys that I'll always look up to. I was going to be beside guys that I'm like, holy shit, man! How am I gonna be in the same division than Roberto Traven? I can't compete with him. He's 100 times better than me. How can I be with Daniel Gracie there? How can I be? You know, we start to like.
But isn't that the goal ultimately when we start?
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu?
but but when the time comes, you're like, holy shit, you know.
You know, I'm asking this for a reason because I think every black belt feels the same way.
It's funny. You wanna be there so bad, but when you get there, you're like, holy shit.
Do you think that's the main reason why people cry?
I think so. Where you can't believe that you were there. You can't believe that you were there. You know, it just feels weird. It's like, you know, and then takes a moment. It's funny, when I promote my students to their black belt, before that, when I promote them to a brown, I always make sure to tell them this in the brown belt graduation promotion. I say, listen, don't forget the next one is right here besides me. So act like one.
Nice. Reminds me of Dracolino saying that he won't promote no matter how good somebody is if they don't have the character to be a black belt.
100%. I'm with Dracolino 100% on that. That's why I mentioned that. Don't forget the next one is right besides me.
That is great. That's great. All right, and the last question, Thomas's favorite.
This is a good one.
Do you wash your belt?
No, never. Never.
How come?
Not against, because I grew up with this crazy thing, don't wash your belt.
Hey, right here.
Yeah, I don't wash.
It is.
I don't, but I'm not against. I tell people to wash. My wife washes my both kids' belts, but she doesn't touch on mine. My
Has
belt.
she ever washed it by accident?
She doesn't touch. My kids don't touch my belt. They know they don't touch.
Good.
That my belt stays there. They don't touch. You know, it's
That's
funny
great.
how we was brought up. It's so funny this. So when I'm grappling, like Alexei, like all my teammates, we don't usually touch each other's belt.
Yeah,
It's funny how we don't put each other's belt. It's such a respect that it's something that I cannot explain. It's kind of untold, right?
Yeah.
Unsaid, untold respect that we have.
There's a lot of awkward time. Like I roll with a lot of higher belts, and there's times where it's like their belt is laying next to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're 5 feet away, and there's an awkward moment where you're like, it would be courteous and nice if I pick this up and hand it to them. But at the same time, it's like, am I supposed to be picking this up?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that thing never was told. You know, it's funny. When I saw De La Riva the first time with the coral belt, I asked him, can I touch?
What'd he say?
That's so funny. He's like, yeah, man, of course. But I asked, can I touch? He's like, yeah. Then I touch it.
Yeah. That's respect. That's respect.
Yeah,
Awesome
that's
stories.
beautiful.
Awesome stories. Well, we've been at this for quite a while. I know
It went quick,
I know
man.
you pressed on time. It's always flies by when we have fun. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Thank
I mean,
you.
your stories.
I appreciate so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing all these amazing stories, and I'm pretty confident that this is going to be a good listening to everybody. Everybody out, especially from the confidence perspective, and see how all this is growing, and I personally think it was fun. So
Yeah, it was great.
Me too. I had fun. I had a lot of fun.
listen, I always say this to all of our guests, but particularly if you're ever in Chicago area, make sure that you let us know. I would love to have you at my academy, and you know, hopefully we can reconnect. But let's not make this the last time we have these conversations, because I would love to pick your brain more. It is a great reconnecting with you, and I'm glad we figured out the technical difficulties. So that was. Hey, by the way, how many laptops do you have next to you?
I have mine. I have a pad here, and I have the one of iMac, big ones in front of me right here.
Backup,
Just
right?
in case.
Backup plan right there.
Backup plan, yeah.
And where can people find you if they're looking for you? They want to reach out. Where can people find you?
So I'm in Massachusetts. I have two schools, one in Weymouth, one in Marshfield. My website is dedecobjj.com.
All right, there you go. You got it.
Awesome.
And you guys, if you guys ever around here, please just let me know. You guys more than welcome. I would love to have you guys.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah, and if I see your belt laying on the mat, I won't touch it.
Don't touch. Don't touch.
All right, let's wrap this up for today. Great talking to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you very
Peace.
much,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Peace. God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.